So there was this crazy story, guys, where Disney, we've had a lot of stuff over the last year, whether it's Disney struggling at the box office, whether it's Bob Iger struggling with all of these public appearances he's doing. Disney isn't having a good year. And we've had several stories of executives who have had really, really, really crazy scandals going on. And this one in particular is insane. It says Disney covered up top executives' pattern of sexual abuse.
Yes. The woman suing is staying anonymous, which is interesting. But she says that a former vice president of distribution at Disney named Nolan Gonzalez had a long pattern of sexual abuse at the company and got away with it because they didn't want to lose him. He was making them too much money. And I don't know, the idea of a mega corporation like Disney caring about money instead of ESG is surprising in and of itself.
Yeah.
But they said he created an environment in which he was free to harass women with impunity. Management was incentivized to hide his harassment.
Lawsuits all use the same language. Go ahead.
Because he generated valuable revenue. And the Jane Doe claims that Nolan Gonzalez raped her several times in 2017 and drugged her with ecstasy and a date rape drug, which left her incapacitated. The suit alleges that he also used his position of power and blackmail to force her into sex. When she tried to cut contact with him in 2018, he allegedly threatened to release intimate videos of their encounters to ruin her career. And she claims that she's also not his first victim nor his last, and his history of misconduct was before and after she was at Disney. And that human resources didn't investigate him because, again, he was just too valuable to the company. And given that he was the VP of distribution, that makes me think he worked directly with the former global head of distribution, who ended up becoming a self-help influencer. We talked about his fall from grace, and he became a self-help influencer and then like basically had an Elvis death where he died while reading comments.
Yeah.
So yeah, not sending their best at Disney.
His name is Nolan Gonzalez. Somebody asked who.
Yes.
Nolan Gonzalez.
Women were discouraged to come forward about his behaviors because management accepted his conduct as part of the entertainment industry, and his firing would hurt the company financially.
Does anybody else here, there's a comment here from the Underp Taker. He says, it's weird. The more I hear about assault claims, the less I care. It's almost as if I'm numb to it. I think that's a huge problem here. This is what we were talking about before. I was talking with Kurtz and Shane Cashman earlier today, and one of the things they pointed out was like, look, when we cover these stories and we have guests, a lot of times they have very little to say because you can't know. Like, everyone's always talking about, like, oh, I'm going to wait for more evidence to come out. I'm like, do you think that there's some magical hidden camera that's going to show this in HD video? Because that's not going to be what's going to happen. That almost never happens. Like, the best thing that happened to Johnny Depp was having that audio recording of Amber Heard saying, like, I wasn't punching you, I was hitting you, and having the finger that actually got hurt. But even if you didn't have the audio tape, somebody being like, that could have happened. How do I know that that's how that happened? Well, I don't know. So when you get to these cases, I find more often than not now, it inspires three things. It inspires vitriol in the realm of like believe all women, vitriol in the case of like all women are liars, and vitriol, and then a less vitriolic, I don't know, I don't care because what do I know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, would you say it's wrong not to care?
No. It is your God-given constitutional right to not give a crap about any of this. You do not have to care.
Yeah.
I think where it becomes, so I think where I become concerned about this is when the I don't care falls on the side of, but let's just go ahead and crucify him. And so as long as that's not the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. So because for me, presumption of innocence has got to be paramount. And unless and until we do have evidence of anything. And so you were saying, well, you're never going to get it. So if we never get it, then we should just act as if the person is innocent, because it just doesn't make sense to say, well, we don't know, but let's just go ahead and assume he's guilty. So like with this Disney suit, it very well, you made a joke about not sending their best, and it very well could be that he's guilty, but it also very well could be just another opportunistic lawsuit. I mean, the language that that you were reading to us, it's the same language that I've seen in a bunch of other lawsuits, some of which I really feel are bullshit. And so I think that's where, to me, that's where my concern is like, that these people, once all of this stuff is made public, once this guy's name is ruined, now there are a lot of people who are saying, oh, this Gonzalez guy, it's like, how do people, if they are falsely accused, how do they get their reputations back? Johnny Depp had to go through a major trial, but I mean, most guys are not going to get that, and then
nor can they afford it.
Well, this guy, despite being formerly a powerful executive at Disney, had some relative anonymity compared to someone like Johnny Depp. He's not a celebrity,
right? Right.
So really,
but I mean, his name is still out there, though, right?
Yes, his name is out there, and hers isn't.
Right.
And this was something we discussed with the Russell Brand allegations as well. Like, do you really have to stay anonymous and expect everyone to believe you?
That's the number one thing for me. I was like, look, if you're not willing to at least put your name out there, I don't know how seriously you want me to take the claim.
That's another thing that came up even with Eliza Blue. I can't believe I'm saying that name out loud right now, but she, said this person is really famous and it's a household name, but I'm not going to reveal who it is because it might pose some threat to me or something.
Well, some people could have made that same claim about the Arden Young video.
What are we supposed to do with that story then, if we don't know who it was?
There's a big debate about whether or not women who make these types of claims, like in this civil suit or in other suits against other stars, should be able to remain anonymous and be designated as Jane Doe. And I understand that if a woman is a victim, it's really difficult for her to have to publicize that. But at the same time, I just feel like, especially with so many false allegations these days, like, we have to know who you are. If you're going to make these claims, then you got to put your name to it. And I understand that's not fair or that's difficult, but like, life is not fair. It is. And that's the same thing that I'll say to people too, who say, well, if we just presume that men are innocent when they're accused, then what about all the guilty men who are getting away with it because we don't have evidence? Well, you don't have evidence, then they get away with it. That's how it works,
Yeah.
And there's a bug that's camped out here.
They just hang out.
It's is it a stink bug?
It's a stink bug.
It's so cute. It's like it's looking at.
I've never heard anyone describe a stink bug that way. But okay.
Do they really stink? Where do they get the
if they die? If they die.
Okay, well, we'll keep you alive then.
Yeah.
I don't want to smell.
Like I find that these cases more often than not, and I also chalk a lot of it up, at least for me personally, to apathy. I chalk the apathy up to the fact that we read so much about it every day.
Yeah.
And that perhaps the outrage would be more fresh in my brain if it was just something I was reading secondhand in the midst of living a more full existence. But since my existence means reading a lot of this, I mean, there was just another one in the news today about T.I. Having a graphic assault case being brought against him. And it's just like, how many of these can I read? P. Diddy was like 9 outrages ago that we were talking about all that stuff going on with him, and I was just like, and
then nobody talked about the Jamie Foxx allegations.
It just disappeared.
That's true.
So you're just like, I'm like, bro, like, and I really do believe that a lot of it is a strong desensitization to a media that just pushes these things constantly. And another part of it is like, look, to the average person, if you're going to try and guilt somebody into caring about this, your defense mechanism kicks in. You're like, you can't make me care about this thing. Like, I refuse to be shamed for not being overtly offended or upset about this person or these people that I have never met, one of whom I don't even know the name of and wouldn't be able to look up the information on. You can't make me care about that.
Right.
And just my Twitter timeline alone, maybe this is just the algorithm pushing things to me based on how I respond. I see like videos of violent crimes, or when Israel and Palestine was in the news, videos of hostages getting dragged through the streets and just like horrible crimes.
Did you watch
and
the
I'm
train video?
expected to not be desensitized to that. And yeah, I did see that train video, like people getting pushed on the train tracks and stuff like that. Like, how am I supposed to feel about it if I'm just being inundated with this imagery all the time? And if I'm constantly looking at news about accusations of sexual misconduct, I'm not going to put myself through the torture of being outraged.
Yeah, it's not healthy
all
to
over
be.
It. Yeah,
exactly. I think there's a question of self-preservation that has to enter into this, because And I'm always going back and forth in my mind, like, is it better to know the truth and to face the truth about the world, or is it better to not think about certain things, not watch certain things, and feel happier or feel better? And I guess each of us has to make that decision for ourselves, but we are so inundated with stuff that really it is not healthy to constantly be in a cycle of outrage. Or, just like yesterday, I was sitting down to have lunch and someone sent me an article about the allegations about the rape of the Israeli women by Hamas. Allegations, don't even want to get into that argument. But I go from having a nice, pleasant, lunch or whatever to suddenly just, and I understand some people might say, well, that's the world, so you should have it in your face. But we don't need it in our face all of the time. There's we
were never psychologically built to have all of the horrors of the world constantly
before us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I agree.
That's a point we've been making pretty frequently in here, because it's endless and it never stops. And then they wonder why your ability. I'm actually surprised more at the people who do have the ability to be outraged all the time, or the people who have the ability to have strong opinions on literally everything that comes out. That's another hallmark.
Feed off of it too.
That's another hallmark of Twitter. There's a lot of people, they have an opinion on everything, and God bless them. But I'm just like, bro, I can't bring myself to have an opinion on literally everything ever.
It's odd that this Jane Doe is suing Nolan Gonzalez after he's already left the company and got demoted.
I assume she's suing the company as well, right? That's where the big bucks are. So I would assume that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sue after the fact. I mean,
he stepped down last year, or no, he stepped down in 2022 after 3 other women reported him for sexual harassment. She claims that she was demoted at the company last year in an alleged attempt by Disney to retaliate against her. So those are her grounds to sue Disney. I wonder if she's also part of the class action lawsuit against Disney right now for gender discrimination.
For being underpaid.
There are about 9,000 women suing Disney for that right now.
Yeah.
But Disney's been laying off thousands of people, so it would happen anyway.
What do you think is a smart way to help people guard themselves against the endless bad news? I just say, I always make the point of say, one of the important things for me, I learned early on when I was trying to get clean and when I got sober was she's hanging out.
I'm
with
totally
her.
listening to you. I'm having a moment, just like with the AI chat or whatever. I'm having it with Brutus here.
Brutus.
Yeah.
She named it Brutus.
I'm scared.
I say that paying
down
attention to your body and how you feel is an important part of learning when to turn stuff off, right? So if you feel yourself starting to become angry or desensitized to the things that you're watching, put your phone down, go out and do something outside, get some exercise, do anything, but don't just sit there and feed into it farther. Come back to it once you've got a clear head, and I think you'll find that your blood pressure will probably at least plummet a little bit, and maybe we'll all live a little bit longer if we learn to read the signs. Because a lot of times when I see people get into fights on social media, I'm like, do you know how much better this would be if you just decided, I'm going to wait 10 minutes, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to see if I really need to write that clap back to this person. Do you really need to do that? And I'm not saying that everyone has to do that. I'm just saying that it's good for your mental health to not have to sit there and argue with people 24/7, nor is it good for your mental health to sit there and let yourself be bombarded by fear porn 24/7. It helps to remove yourself from that environment. If you really think about it, back in the day, you didn't look at the news all that much. You got up, you went to work, maybe you listened to talk radio for a little bit, and you texted people on your phone. If it was that time period, maybe you didn't even have that back in the day. You came home, maybe you watched the 5 o'clock news, or you watched the news at dinner, and then you watched a little bit of TV and you went to bed. Now, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're bombarded by bad news and stories like this, and you wonder why people are ambivalent about the outcomes of these things, because it just feels like the world is one big giant mess, and it's a dumpster.
And it's always before you. It's always in glaring, loud, crass visuals and language. It's always before you. No, that's true. And I feel like, we've talked about this before, but I feel like there's more pressure now with the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. There's more people demanding that you have an opinion, like
you have to.
And it's a moral failure to not have a take on every
Right.
And what's funny about that is I use that opinion. It's why I think people now, like, there's a difference between being smart and like knowing something and understanding it. Like, nobody wants to feel stupid anymore because the internet can give you just about every answer to a question. So people forget that it's not a bad thing to not know the answer to something. But nowadays they expect you to have the answer, because when you ask a question online, they're like, I don't have the time to teach you this. Go look it up. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.